Chapter 2 Concrete Ideas. Now, before we start this chapter, I want to say to you that concrete ideas are really the things that we're after. When you start out with your dream, no matter what it is, it's a rough concept as you heard in the earlier chapter. It's not very clear to us at first. We have an idea of what we want to achieve, but the clearer we make it, the faster and easier it becomes for us to receive and attract these concrete ideas through which we can turn our dreams into reality. This is something we gotta remember. Even though it might seem unrealistic at first, it's through these ideas that we receive and develop within our minds that we ultimately are able to create what we want to create on the physical side of life. Now, before we can work with concrete ideas, we have to ask ourselves what thinking really is. The book is called Thinking from Imagination. Do you have any idea what that really means? When we think about something, we don't think in letters or words, but in pictures. You can easily test this out for yourself. Think about something from the past. Think of your front door. Think about something that is not in your current environment, and you'll discover that a picture flashes on the mind. If we're going to think from imagination, it means we're going to create mental pictures on purpose. It's like making a photograph of your dream, and the clearer we make the picture, the easier and more effectively we can think from this mental image, from our imagination. What happens next is that you'll start to develop ideas, which are inspired by the mental picture. Ideas about what you should be doing in order to get closer to the realization of your dream. As I wrote in The Miracle of Wanting, thinking is where we discover the ideas for expression. So when you think about something, it means you're literally building a picture in your mind. It is by using your imagination you can build a vision of what you want. It is through thinking from this vision that you can turn it into concrete ideas, ideas on which you can act. All of this happens almost instantly. It's not a slow process, it happens pretty much at warp speed. If a person has never studied this, it may seem complicated, but it really isn't. If you have a clear vision of what you want, the ideas for its realization come to you very quickly. You attract these ideas from the universe and atmosphere surrounding you. The problem really starts once we consider taking action upon these new ideas. In many cases, these ideas are not in harmony with our old belief system. Regardless, this is where your true power starts to awaken. Even if the ideas make us feel uncomfortable at first, we have to learn to accept these new ideas and make ourselves in harmony with them. How can we do this? As a human being, you'll always know how to do a better job than you're currently doing, how to get better results you're currently getting. You might want to argue against this idea, but it is true. Why then is it so difficult to find concrete ideas inside our minds in order to express the dream? Because our minds are more often than not led by contradicting habit patterns and beliefs. Do you remember what I said about the power of our desires? If your desire is strong enough, it will push all doubts out of your mind. This gives us a hint on what should happen if we want to turn our concrete ideas into reality. Once you start working with your imagination, you'll receive more and more ideas on what you could do in order to make your dream come true. It is up to us to improve the strength of our desires, so we can actually change ourselves from within. Once we know what we should be doing in order to get closer to our dream, we have to embrace this change with our heart and soul. We have to desire and accept to make the necessary changes. This desire can stay within our consciousness as long as we keep a close eye on how our lives would improve once the dream would be realized. It can happen quite often with a person that they dream of something they want. The ideas start to come about what they should do in order to get it, but then they dismiss it because their ideas are not surrounded by a burning desire for its realization. Again, we can easily measure this activity in our own lives. I know you have had goals in your life you wanted to achieve, but in the end you dismissed these same goals as being unrealistic or whatever else you could think of. This all occurred because your desires weren't strong enough. Oh yeah, you could have desired to achieve certain dreams, but as I described in the previous chapter, if the flame of desire is weak, we're working with a weak desire for the realization of our dream. Make your desires strong, make them powerful. The ideas that will lead you towards the realization of your dream come from within. As long as our desires aren't strong enough, we're unable to change and overcome our old habit patterns, and so we keep getting the same results over and over again. If you can tell me what you want to achieve and still have no idea how to get what you want, causing you to be stuck, this is evidence that your desires aren't strong enough to achieve whatever you want. Once your desires are strong enough, you'll start to receive and develop concrete ideas within your own mind. From that point on, your desires keep increasing for its realization, because you can see how much your life would improve if it were a reality. Ultimately, this helps you receive the motivation you would need in order to take the necessary actions to get there. The concrete ideas for the realization of your dreams are attracted to you by the strength of your desires. So do you desire with heart and soul to realize your dream? If so, you'll automatically start the process of thinking from imagination. The average person can entertain ideas about a better future for themselves in his or her mind, but it doesn't create a true emotional response of desire within themselves. If they understood this process, they would know there's no need to entertain it as a daydream. Instead, they would use it consciously to their advantage, so they start thinking from their imagination. Let's look at the following scenario concerning a student. Their grades are bad. The teachers make them aware of this fact. The parents make them aware. The student himself is aware, and still nothing changes. The student knows if they would put more effort into their studies, their grades could improve. Why then is it so difficult for many students to improve? Could it potentially be that a burning desire is missing? I think you know the answer. This is clearly the case. Alright, how can we help students develop a burning desire for improved grades at school? This can only occur once they realize the benefit of having good grades in the first place. You might think it's obvious to them, but think about it. If it was obvious, they could develop the desire, but they probably don't really bother looking into it as much as I am looking into it. It's quite absurd, but in many cases in our current educational system, students don't really desire to have good grades at all. Even worse, in many cases they even wonder what the purpose is of all these studies they need to follow, and I wouldn't disagree on that. Almost all lessons in our general education are based on society, the past, and about how things work within the society we live in. There's never any lessons about the ideas I'm talking about. If this was the case, the whole educational system would have to transform into something else altogether. Since it's highly unlikely this would ever happen, the question arises: how can we effectively help students develop a burning desire for improved results in their studies? My approach would be as follows. If you know any students that have difficulty getting good grades, ask them if they are interested in achieving whatever they want, regardless of how unrealistic the dream might seem at first. Once we start teaching children these ideas about thinking from imagination, they will be able to apply these same principles on the current educational system. I'm well aware education is pretty much mandatory in all countries. Don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with our school systems. At least it teaches us the basic things of life. The problem, though, is that it never goes beyond that place, and so we never truly learn anything about our own potential as we grow up and go through life. Since results are determined by our own imagination, it shows the importance of this study about our own potential. Once you accept and understand all your results came from your own imagination, you shouldn't feel bad about what has happened to you up until this point, or what you might have done wrong. Instead, be curious about the other things that are still possible for you. What we want to develop is a clear vision of what we want by using our imagination. Then we want this vision to unleash strong desires for its realization, and finally concrete ideas will come to us, making it possible to achieve our dream. This is in essence the only thing you need to do. You might think there has to be more to it than that, and in many cases it's this approach that causes people to get stuck. They can't believe the realization of their dreams depend on such a simple process. We want to make it more complicated than it really is. Are you someone that does this? Why? Ask yourself, why do I want to complicate things for myself? Again, you'll discover we operate with many contradicting habit patterns and beliefs concerning our own potential. Thinking from imagination means you'll be able to consciously observe the ideas for the realization of your own dream. As long as we aren't consciously aware of this process, it will be a great mystery to us whether we can truly achieve whatever we want. This causes a tendency to ask others if they think this is possible for us, and since they don't control our minds, you might get contradicting reactions from those around you. Once we've gone through this vicious cycle, we come to the conclusion it's probably best to give up on our dream. Our inner potential operates in the same manner as everybody else. There are specific processes we have to obey, otherwise we simply cannot get the results we're after. And this is good news for you, since it simply means you'll have to learn what these processes are all about and how they work. This will then put you in a position to get what you want and win in life. This also explains why we can see two people in similar careers. Person A is highly successful, person B seems to achieve nothing at all. Person A works consciously or unconsciously with their own desires. They are driven by strong desires. Person B works consciously or unconsciously against themselves. They are working with weak desires or no desires at all. They just go through the motion of whatever their business asks of them. The stronger your desires are for the realization of your dream, the bigger and better the ideas you attract into your mind. This is a subtle difference between two people who are working on similar projects. Undoubtedly, you have seen this with your own eyes. Maybe you were not aware of it. This fascinates me deeply. Why do some people achieve their dreams and the great majority of humanity doesn't? Because of my own curiosity, I'm driven day in and out by this desire, and I'm automatically learning more about our own potential. My desires are so strong to understand this aspect of our lives that the universe brings me all sorts of ideas and revelations about it, and I'm trying to share these revelations with you through my book and institute. It is my goal to cause you to desire with full force to have a wonderful future ahead of you, one in which you live exactly the way you want it. If this is something that interests you, and you can feel a burning desire through heart and soul, the concrete ideas for the realization of such a future will follow automatically. We think in pictures, so through thoughts, these ideas begin to hint at what you should be doing in order to get closer to that dream. How will you become wealthy if that's what you desire? How will you become successful if that's what you desire? The ideas on what should be done come from within. True wealth, happiness and success come from within, and we learn to express the inner world of desire into our outer lives. In other words, we're talking about results. So through this process, your results will just keep getting better and better once and for all. Let me share the following with you. It's amazing to realize that the power to achieve all of your dreams lies hidden within yourself. You're not dependent on luck, you're not dependent on other people. Everything you need in order to realize your dream will come to you because they are called by the strength of your own desires. The people you need in order to make your dreams come true respond unconsciously to the power of your own desires. The stuff you need in order to get what you want will come into your life because your desires will call them and bring them to you. I know it might be difficult to believe in this, but believe you will once you start working with these ideas in your own life. We have to measure all of our activities based on how strong our desires are when working on them. If we are doing things we don't truly desire to do, we won't achieve great success. We won't be creating a magnificent future for ourselves. The only question we should ask ourselves is, do I desire great success with the very thing I'm working on right now? Only by approaching our lives from this angle will it bring us to our purpose. Otherwise, life stays a mystery and we keep wondering, what is it all about? Why do I even exist? I've had goals in my own life that weren't motivated by strong desires. Because of this, no concrete ideas for the improvement of my own life ever developed in my mind. This is evidence to me it's vitally important to be very clear about what we want. And then we should increase our desires with such an intensity we go beyond the stratosphere. The true magic and awakening of our potential happens once we do just that. The concrete ideas for the realization of your dreams will and must come to you.